Hi. I don't know where else to share this, but I need to get it off my chest. I'm not great at writing or telling stories, so bear with me. I live alone in a small cabin in the woods. It's quiet out here, and I like it that way. I've been here for almost 20 years now, ever since I retired. The closest town is about 20 miles away, and I don't get many visitors. Honestly, that's how I like it. I keep to myself. My kids don't visit much, and I'm okay with that. This all started about 2 months ago. It was late at night, and I was sitting on my porch smoking a cigar. The forest is peaceful at night, with nothing but the sound of crickets and the occasional rustle in the bushes from deer or raccoons. But that night, it felt different. I remember hearing something in the distance. It wasn't an animal. It sounded like people talking. That's strange enough out here because nobody comes this deep into the woods unless they're hunting or hiking. And even then, it's rare. The voices weren't loud, but I could tell there were at least 2 of them, maybe more. I figured it was just some campers who wandered too far off the trails. It happens sometimes. I didn't think much of it at first. But then, a couple of nights later, I heard the voices again, closer this time. It wasn't just talking either. There was laughter, but not the kind that makes you feel good. It was sharp, like they were mocking something. It gave me a bad feeling. I should have called someone then, but I didn't. I just went back inside and locked my doors. A week later, the sheriff came by. He said they were looking for a couple of women who'd gone missing. They were hikers, last seen a few miles from my cabin. I told him about the voices I'd heard, but I didn't have much else to say. He nodded and said they'd keep looking. That was the start of it. Over the next few weeks, I kept hearing noises in the forest. Not every night, but often enough to make me uneasy. Sometimes it was talking, sometimes it sounded like something being dragged. Once, I swear I heard someone screaming, but it was faint, and by the time I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, it was quiet again. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to waste the sheriff's time if it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then, about a month ago, I was walking through the woods, checking some old traps I'd set. I don't trap much anymore, but I like to keep the skills sharp. That's when I found it, a patch of ground that looked freshly dug. It wasn't a big area, maybe the size of a small rug, but it stood out. The dirt was loose, and there were bits of grass scattered on top, like someone had tried to cover it up. My stomach turned, but I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe an animal had dug something up. I didn't have anything to dig with, so I marked the spot with some sticks and went back to my cabin. I called the sheriff and told him what I found. They came out later that day with a couple of deputies and started digging. I'll never forget the look on the sheriff's face when they uncovered the first body. It was one of the missing women, buried just a few feet down. She'd been there for weeks, maybe longer. They kept digging and found another body, and then another. By the time they were done, they'd found 3 women, all buried in shallow graves, not far from each other. The sheriff started asking me a lot of questions. When I'd heard the noises, if I'd seen anyone, stuff like that. I told him everything I knew, which wasn't much. I felt like a suspect, but I get it. I was the only person living out here, and it must have looked bad. For a while, it seemed like they were making progress. They brought in dogs, set up cameras, and had officers patrolling the area day and night. But then, just like that, they packed up and left. The sheriff came by one last time and said they didn't have any leads. Whoever did this was long gone. That should have been the end of it, but it isn't. I can't stop thinking about those women. Someone did this, and they were close enough to my cabin that I might have walked right past them without knowing. Some nights, I still hear things in the forest. I tell myself it's just animals, but it doesn't always sound like animals. Sometimes I wonder if whoever did this is still out there, watching, waiting. I don't know if I can stay here much longer. This cabin used to feel like my sanctuary, but now it feels like a prison. Every creak, every rustle in the bushes, it all puts me on edge. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. I don't know if there'll ever be answers, but I hope those women get the justice they deserve.